Hey, what's up? My name is Sky, and in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I tiled this kitchen backsplash using Arabesque tile. So without further ado, let's get it. We decided to remodel our kitchen, and due to the fact that we never remodeled a kitchen before, we wanted it to be easy as possible. So since IKEA has their own online 3D kitchen planner, and they're known for making things easier for do-it-yourselfers, we decided to go with them. But when it comes to the backsplash, since IKEA doesn't make tile, we decided to use an Arabesque tile located at Home Depot. Our first step was to find our center point of start. This will ensure that the pattern on the left side of the wall ends the same as the pattern on the right side of the wall. So this was the plan. After finding the center point of start, I would use that reference to start building outwards towards the right and left corner of the sink wall. I'll also use a laser level to make sure that the tile is being installed equally leveled from left to right. After finishing with the sink wall, I'll then move on to install tile on the right and left wall. This particular tile came with a mesh backing, but for spots like this, underneath the windowsill, I would have to rip the tile off of the mesh in order to install it. And since this is a backsplash and you're not walking on this tile, I wasn't too concerned about anything cracking. So for the tiles that I took off of the mesh, I would just butter the backs of them and put them on the wall that way. Using spacers in between the tile and countertop allows for the cabinets to shift and expand over time without popping any of the tiles loose. Some pieces required crazy cuts, such as this one. And in order to achieve these cuts, I would take one of the pieces of tile, trace it onto a piece of paper, and then cut it out and make cuts and adjustments as needed in order to get it to fit in place. After figuring out the crazy cut that I would need, I would then take that paper, trace it onto a tile, and then use my tile saw to cut it out. And in order to secure the tile to the wall, I'll use a pre-mixed tile adhesive. When trying to make cuts around an outlet box, the use of a laser level was extremely helpful. I would line the laser up with the edge of the outlet box, put the towel on the wall, and then trace the laser. But I would first make sure to cut off any incoming power going to that box. I found that it was easier to rip all the tiles that I had to make cuts to off of the mesh backing before cutting them. Even though most of the tiles that I installed were connected to a mesh backing, they still were susceptible to sagging. So I would use spacers in places wherever I needed them in order to prevent this. In order to keep the pattern lined up in the corners, I would take a cutout of one of the tiles and align it directly on top of one of the tiles nearest to the corner. Where the corner met the tile, that's where I would bend the cutout. I then took that same cutout and I would align it directly on top of another tile, and before tracing it, I knew I had to account for the thickness of the opposite tile that was going to meet it in the corner. So I took a scrap piece of tile and I added it to the thickness of the cutout. After seeing that everything lined up like it needed to be, I then took that same piece of tile and transferred the cut line to a full sheet of towel. Yeah, I know, I had a ton of adhesive on the wall. Truth is, I was using the wrong trowel, and I was too lazy to run to the shed to grab the right one. But eventually I would break down and just go do it. Now, using all the techniques I just showed you, it was now time to get this job done. After finishing the backsplash, I used a 1/4 round towel around all the exposed edges. This really gave the backsplash a more finished look. Finally, all I had to do now was grout, then caulk the corners and edges.
In due season, I'ma pay back everything you gave, and I mean it. All the tears cried and the prayers prayed, yeah, I need it. All the time sowed and the lessons learned I'm reaping. Here's the reason. Pops taught me how to be a man, mama taught me how to understand. I'll never be the other man. If I trust in him, he got better plans. I'ma give you everything you wanted that you never had. We moving on to the finer things. I just wanna give you better days.
How do I tell the man where a boy used to be how much having him in my life means to me? You don't have to be perfect to be great, but in my eyes, son, you will always be great. I love you, son.
I remember so vividly.
Whoa, yeah, buddy, we gon' keep talking cold, and I hang with a few, cause the most do the most. Wine bottles on the table, get the chairs and a toast, cause we didn't save ourselves, it was God as our boast. Look, no delay, I made a note today.